All right. Hi, Pranav. How are you?
Yeah, Aditya, am I audible? I think I have a network issue, I think, if I'm not wrong.
Okay. Yeah, this is perfectly fine. I don't think it's a problem at all.
Okay, works, yeah. I can hear you.
Okay. Okay. All right. I'll just start with the intro. All right. Hi, everyone. This is another episode of the First March podcast, and we have today Pranav Murthy, who graduated from Christ as a gold medalist, BCom honors, and currently he's doing his MBA at IIM Lucknow. I would definitely go through your profile, and I would like to start from I am Lucknow and actually go back. So you have been at I am Lucknow. I think your first semester must have gotten over, right?
Yeah, so it's a tri-semester here. So I'm currently in my third sem. So it's a 3 month semester basis. So I think I'm done with 6 months, just have 3 more months. Currently in my third sem.
All right. How do you reflect on your time over there?
It's been pretty hectic, to be very fair. So the first 3 4 months just was entirely encompassed in placements. So the usual cycle here is that when you join college in the first sem, you're just taking care of your summer placements, and it just spills over into the little bit of the second sem also. Once your summer placements are solidified, I think it's pretty chill. You have a lot of activities all year round. So along with summer placements, I think further on, I pretty much had a lot to do with sports. We had like cultural events which were interclass. We had interclass sports. Then we had university sports, etc. So there's a lot to do on campus for sure. I think every week there's something or the other in terms of one club or another club doing something. So overall, pretty engaging. Can get a little overwhelming in the first 4 months for sure, because you're managing classes, you're balancing academics, you're balancing placements, you're balancing anything that you want to do on the side. Overall, yeah, I mean, it's been a fairly good journey so far. So hopefully, the second year is pretty chill as a whole. Nothing much to do then.
Awesome. All right. And I believe you're at Ahmedabad. Is that
No, no,
true?
I'm in Lucknow right now.
Okay, okay, that's great. And one thing I wanted to ask was the difference. So, whether trimester or speaking generally, the difference in workloads. I think that must have been a strategic move. I've heard that's common to nearly all the top IMs. Is that there will be weeks where you're drowning in assignments, and there will be weeks, maybe as you mentioned, after the placement, where it would be slightly more. Is that a myth, or is that how it works?
No, no, it's definitely how it works. So I think the first, like I mentioned, the first 3 4 months was very hectic, like managing everything all year round. But overall, I feel now there's a certain phase where it's very chill, like it's very relaxed, and the only thing that you want to focus on, if you're very academic centric, is probably your education and like the in class activities. Apart from that, it's I most of my time just goes in reading books, just playing sports, just taking time out for myself. I think more often than not, we just get together, watch a movie like once in 2 days or once in 3 days. Uh, Obviously, it's not a city where there's a lot of life outside, like a metropolitan city like Mumbai or Bangalore, but there are things to do. So frequently, just go out, just again, go out to watch movies or do something that just fancies you. But overall, yeah, so it's definitely not a myth. There are certain phases where everything gets really complex and hectic, and there are certain phases where you feel like the effort that you put in those complex phases was worth it, and you can just chill for now and just take things lightly. But yeah, I mean, that's not common to like just the four IIMs. I just feel like that's common to like any B school in general. Coming for an MBA, that's something you should expect. So there will be pockets and phases where there is a lot of grueling activity and you'll have to put in the long hours, but at the end of the day it balances out. So I'm not very, I won't be in a position to tell you what transitioning from a work life to an MBA life would be, because I joined as a fresher. But I feel like that perspective also really helps, because they're coming from a very hectic schedule like all year round to like a very balanced one. So yeah, I think MBA life is pretty fun that way.
Okay, and that's something that I did want to touch upon. Going to IIM Lucknow as a fresher itself, you did have an internship at Goldman Sachs, and I wanted to talk to you about joining or going to any business school as a fresher. Do you think you are at an advantage or at a disadvantage?
Right. So I think the way the IM process is structured, like so far, I've not genuinely noticed any significant disadvantage of being a fresher. So a lot of people generally have the misconception that, freshers are at a significant disadvantage. So the ideal argument is that in an MBA environment, you would be more comfortable and you definitely would be able to grasp concepts better and make better connections if you have some degree of work X, because there are some soft skills that you generally learn from corporates and organizations, right? So which are implementable in an MBA. But I think it also to a great degree depends on how your entire, your career or your life and your UG goes as well. Like for example, from a personal standpoint, in Christ, I think I was engaged in a lot more activities that helped me like generate those soft skills, in like inbuild those soft skills, and at the same time also improve like my networking abilities as well as my communication skills. And I think these are like the core parameters that they look for in an MBA, and there's not much beyond this. The only significant disadvantage that I can see as a fresher is the process itself in terms of how it's structured. So you have your top IIMs, all of them, A, B, C, L, K, I, and all the other IIMs. They always have marks allocated for WorkX. This is to get into the college. So obviously, if you're a fresher, it's harder to get into the college because you're losing out those marks on the composite score. But once you get into the college, I don't think there's anything that is a barrier for you. Especially in my batch, I feel like there's a good fresher intake. I think 32%. I think the Lucknow report was out recently. You can check that. I think 160 to 162 freshers, like in my batch. And I feel everyone has a fairly good profile. Everyone's done fairly well to get here. So no significant disadvantage of being here, primarily even from the standpoint of academics. A lot of freshers are actually doing well here as well in terms of acads. So they're not at a significant disadvantage to WorkX, but the only disadvantage I feel like I said, picking up those soft skills if you haven't, and secondly, primarily just the process as a whole to get into the IIM. So if you can crack it as a fresher, there's nothing like it. So that's why I always encourage them to write CAT. But I mean, yeah, it's definitely a little harder because you lose marks on the composite score.
Okay, and wanted to go back to your final year at Christ when you might
Yeah,
have had
your
but at the
voice
same time
broke.
you've had.
Your voice broke in between. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, am I audible? Is this better now?
Yeah, it's a little better. Sorry.
Okay, I wanted to go back to your time, Christ final year, where you must have given your CAT November, December, and you also had a variety of other activities going on, exams to give. I remember you had mentioned you had postponed your FRM simply so you could probably focus more on the CAT itself.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
would you have found it easier to prepare for CAT had you probably worked for a while, maybe in any organization, or do you feel it's true the otherwise that it's way easier to give the cat while still being a student?
So firstly, I'll just tackle the point where you asked about how I managed the third year, and then I'll come to CAT. So it was like, to be very honest, it was a pretty rash move on my behalf. So I just generally felt that with the amount of planning that I could incentivize on, I could generally manage FRM Part 1 as well as CAT. And a lot of people do end up managing it. But personally, for me, I feel like in Christ, I found it a little more hectic personally because there were a lot of club activities as well, like you said. And in Christ, the ACADS culture is slightly higher in terms of your education, etc. If you primarily want to focus on it, right? So that was a personal choice for me where I wanted to maintain that as well. So along with that, I felt like I was pushing myself a little too hard to get both done on the same month. And like late September, right before the deferment window for FRM closed, I was like, okay, this is not going to work out. Like, I don't think I have enough time to give justice to both. Even if I do give justice to both, I can probably clear FRM because that's more conceptual. But I definitely do not want to fuck up CAT because that's one of my main particular agendas for this particular season, right? So, CAT was something that I wanted to focus on because I knew that couldn't be deferred at all. So I deferred my FRM to the May window, and CAT was primarily given in the November window as like stipulated, like once a year. So that's why I made the choice because one could be deferred, one was ideally cannot be deferred by one individual, and just to maintain like workload and balance everything out. And I felt like that was the best thing that I could do because then I was able to give way more time to CAT in terms of preparation, and then I was able to take an extended break for like 2 3 months and start prepping for FRM again from like like February or like mid-Feb or March, etc. So that gave me that good like mental space as well as the ability to like balance things out. Coming to cat as a fresher or cat is in terms of writing when you're in work organizations, again like I said, right? So I wouldn't be the best judge of this. The best judge of this question would ideally be someone who's written cat as a fresher and unfortunately didn't qualify and wrote it again when they were working, right? So they can give you a very good idea on how they balance time from both ends to write cat. Now only thing that I feel is that when you're in like college, you have a lot more personal time for you to prepare for anything that you want. And it's basically something that you would allocate time to from your end, right? Like it's a resource bucket that you have in terms of time and it's not dictated by anyone else. Only thing I feel like when you're in a work organization, there's always that external pressure of you like finishing projects assigned to you, or like you having to report back on a certain deadline, etc. Due to which a lot of timelines are crunched, as a result of which you cannot fit in a studying pattern. It's definitely harder, I feel, personal opinion, to study for CAT or any other professional exam when you're working, as like as opposed to like when you're in college. And this was one of the main reasons that I also wrote CAT as a fresher, because I felt that I do not want to fall back into that cycle of doing a half study business when I'm working and just, messing up CAT then as well. So I thought if it doesn't work out, obviously I'll go for that option, but it's worth giving it a shot as a fresher because again, working and coming back to MBA is slightly harder transition into for few people. And I wasn't very comfortable exploring that avenue.
Yeah, I mean, that has been my primary dilemma for quite a while, and I continue switching back and forth, and I still haven't been able to because all routines and rules that you might have in place for yourself, that suddenly goes out the window when you're working. They'll make you, especially if you're a fresher, they'll make you work really long hours and Saturdays and possibly on Sundays. So that it can get really, really difficult. And coming back to your profile, maybe you could give us a little bit of insight into the MBA admissions process because you have such the breadth of your profile is truly. I mean, I finished my first sem at Christ, and there are two kinds of people generally: people who do it to the extremes when it comes to extracurriculars, or when it comes to academics. I've met, to be honest, very unidimensional people. There, it's one or the other, but you have really excelled at both. And I just wanted to know your thoughts. Why is it? Why did you do it from the perspective of maybe it'll look good on my resume, or did you do it for your personal development? What were your thoughts?
That's a lot of flattery in like one go, but yeah. So thanks for that. But I feel like fairly. I mean, obviously you've been there for like 1 year or like a few sems, but genuinely feel like Christ is a place where you find the maximum number of multidimensional people. So if as the years go by and as people start picking up the fact that ECA is like extracurriculars and doing stuff that are important that like personal to them are important, then I feel like they flourish in like all fields. And obviously, I didn't do this from a CV standpoint or a resume standpoint primarily. So my main agenda for doing activities in Christ was when I joined Christ, I felt like it was giving me that avenue as compared to a lot of other colleges where there was a lot of activity and I didn't want to miss out like being part of those activities because I felt like this is all a part and parcel of college life. That obviously took care of the ECS bucket. And in terms of how like the entire ECS was structured for me, I think I was part of CUCA where there's a lot of festing culture even from my school. So that just aligns with like education, right? So the things that you study are something that you can implement as well in terms of whether you're doing economics or finance, etc. And these are genuine concepts that I felt that you could generally implement in your day-to-day aspects of extracurriculars as well. So that definitely took care of that, and that's why I felt like I could do fairly well in that. Now, obviously, I was nowhere close to being the best in ECAs in Christ. There were way better people. So again, if you're looking at multidimensional traits, right, I might have not been the best at either of the things that I do, but I feel like the reason that I did well was I managed both decently well. There will be better people in each of those fields. So it's more about being a jack of all trades. It's generally okay if you're not a master of one or none or whatever they say, because it's just about having fun in Christ, obviously. Yeah, my primary agenda was just to have fun with ECAs and sports. Sports are something that I really love, and I was really into sports since I was small. So cricket is something that I am very passionate about and gave cricket a shot in university. So I used to play a lot in university, and I don't think I was actively engaged in a lot of other sports in Christ. But after coming here, the sports horizon has decently widened after placements because there's a lot of free time as compared to before. So here there's more to do with other sports like hockey, there's football, there's cricket, there's table tennis, etc. So there's a lot more open avenues over here in terms of your time. Balancing academics is something that is very personal. So it's not something that I've always said is uh, very important. It's primarily important only from an Indian education standpoint because in India marks are given a lot of weightage. I still don't know why, and obviously like that there is some filter that is followed because you have to filter somewhere in a population like India, right? So the general category that is used as marks, but it's fairly not even important, honestly. But like coming to marks, I just feel like the one thing that I'm very lucky with in life is that I can grasp concepts decently quickly. And it's not a, it's generally not like I'm just very lucky like that. And I don't genuinely feel like I have a plus point over anyone in terms of my smartness or ability. It's genuinely to do with the fact that when there are certain concepts in class, and this is something that I didn't do, and this is something that I learned how to do in MBA, and it follows for any educational institution. You just pay attention in class. And I know this is going to sound like the worst, like the most parent advice coming from anyone, but genuinely, if you just allocate that time in class, there are certain people in my class who just listen in class and just roam around the whole day after that. Like they literally do nothing even before the exam and they end up scoring really well because of that retention capacity that they have within class by listening, right? So if you're a person who can listen and retain, listening in class is your best option. If you're a person who feels like you don't want to listen in class, that's fine, honestly. Like you don't want to listen in class because you need to study at your own pace or you need to adjust things according to your own schedule, then you just have to make sure that your planning is more on point. In terms of if you're a slow learner, make sure that you're not lazy like 1 week before the exam saying I'll start 3 days before or 2 days before, and just allocate more time to yourself. Just make sure that you structure your entire pattern in like a way that's comfortable for you. At the end of the day, it's all about matching your level of comfort with the level of the education you're at and how you study, etc. So that's fairly easy to do. It's just about picking out that it's just about forming that habit to just build that schedule for yourself and just sticking to it. So more often than just being good at studies, it's more about just discipline if you want to be good at studies, honestly. Like I'm saying, if you're doing MBA in India, etc., then it's very important. Otherwise, like marks is something that you should worry the least about, honestly. uh Now coming to the MBA admissions process, yes, again, marks are very very important. Hey Mansi, sorry, I just saw your message. I'll just add on after this. So yeah, marks in terms of your UG are primarily important if you're writing CAT as a fresher or any MBA exam as such, primarily because one of the filters used is your 10th, 12th, and your grad scores. And there's a significant weightage given to all of them, right? So, like I said, marks are a certain degree of filter that is used in India, which is why I feel like it's slightly unfair because for some people have got penalized after scoring very high scores in CAT like 99.7 etc. by not having a good 10th or 12th score, which is not even relevant because they've prep for CAT like so well and they've done so well and they're getting penalized for something that happened in the past. But I felt that, I mean, I don't know how far in the future that's going to change, but there is a certain degree of reliance on marks here. So obviously you have to study if you really need to be a part of an MBA college in India in terms of the metrics on what they choose you based, like on the metrics which they use to choose you. Apart from that, I don't think there's much to the MBA admissions process. So if you're asking specifically about IIMs, because that's the only one that I'm very, aware about, because that's the one I wrote. You write CAT, you basically get calls from IIMs based on your score, the composite score that they build. So your composite score is usually a function of your CAT score, your 10th and 12th scores, your graduation scores, your academic diversity. If you're an engineer, they're slightly more harsh on you. You don't really get marks for academic diversity. If you're from commerce, arts, you're an architect, you're a lawyer, you're from an strange field as such that is not very common in the MBA space, you're given a little more weightage. So you might be allocated 5 marks overall, and that 5 marks may not go to an engineer. There is definitely academic diversity. So If you are a female, let's say if you are a female non-engineer, you probably have both sides, you have both degrees of advantage, right? You have 5 marks allocated for gender diversity, you have 5 marks allocated for academic diversity. And that's, I mean, to a certain degree, that's understandable once you see the entire like outlay of the entire structure at IIM also, right? So overall, I feel like they've put in a lot of thought into how the entire thing has gone about, and there is some degree of here and there you will lose out on some things, you will not lose out on something. So personally, I felt that I got like extra 5 marks for being a commerce student because I was non-engineer, but I felt like I've missed out like some of the important calls like Ahmedabad, Bangalore, etc. because I didn't have work X, right? So I was a fresher, so I lost like 5 to 10 marks in the work X bucket of the composite score. So despite a good CAT score, I don't feel like I could crack it into like getting a call from the top three IIMs because of the fact that I'm a fresher. And obviously, there are freshers who've done way better and they've scored like 99.7, 99.8, and they comfortably get calls from all three. But I felt that at my score, if I had WorkX, it might have helped a bit. But that's always an argument. So you could have written, you could have cancelled, you could have not sat for your Lucknow call. You could have again written CAT next year. But like to a certain degree, I didn't see too much of a difference. There is obviously a difference between the top strata and us. But I mean, in terms of placements, etc., we're fairly good. Like I'm pretty much liking campus life here. It's pretty fun overall. There's a lot of activity here, so it was a good I felt like it was a good fit at the time as well. There's not much more to the MBA admissions process. So you get a call, and then once you get a call, you have to convert the interview. And if you convert the interview, you have an offer letter, and they shortlist the top 500 people based on your score. And this is primarily based on the seats in each college for each IM. And yeah, so that's pretty much about it. Just take Manasvi's question. So, do you think passion and ambition are enough, or do you believe following through timelines and ensuring that you don't have any backlogs? Yeah, so backlogs obviously is not a backlogs would obviously come with the fact that whatever your pattern of studying is, uh, as long as you don't have backlogs in terms of the exams you write or any backlogs in terms of your personal space and time, that should be like obviously these are key elements, but again, like uh, one like studying is genuinely a very personal habit in terms of how a person approaches it. uh, Passion and ambition are more than enough. Like if you have it, great for you. There are I know few people who genuinely love studying and they end up doing well because it's something that they love to do. So if you're passionate and you're ambitious about making it somewhere and you feel like marks are the way to get there, then I'm sure that's enough incentive for you to study. If not, that's what I was saying. If not, and you feel like you need to be pushed, and you're not a person who grasps like educational concepts very quickly, which is completely fine. Building timelines is very very like useful. I think there are a few subjects where I could grasp on very quickly. There were a few subjects where I struggled a lot, so I just made sure I allocated more time to those subjects, and like before the exam, just spent a lot more time on those particular subjects as such, which is a similar pattern people follow here as well. So there's no like rocket science to it. It's all about doing like what fits your schedule and what you're comfortable with overall.
Okay, yeah, that was really great answer. I think, yeah, I think to respond to your previous, I mean, yeah, no one does diversity like India. I mean, when I first got to know about all these, the way they accord points, I understand that you need to have a filter process one way or the other given India's population, but at the same time, it's a system that you might, in one way or the other, discourage truly exceptional candidates, and that can be sometimes counterintuitive. Now, I think I'll go back because I really wanted to focus on your time at Christ and your time at IIM Lucknow because there are some questions like, what do you want to do 5 years, 10 years down the line, and I don't see the point in it because who knows how the world's going to look like 5 years later. I think
Fair
it's
enough.
too far. Yeah, it's just changing so much year on year. I would say I would ask you what were your most memorable experiences looking back 3 years at college, extracurricular or
I
anything.
think so. Primarily, it would be 1.5 years in college because I was part of that COVID hit batch, like one of them. So
Okay.
we had like 1 year completely online. Half a year was offered, like I think one sem was offered as hybrid, which I chose to go to college to. So I just made sure that I maximized the time that I was in college. What are the most memorable events? I think primarily one was obviously the clubs and activities, like I told you. Secondly, I feel Christ is a place where there is a lot of opportunities to like get to know other people. So I think personally, like obviously I had a great friend group, and I feel like that really helped me get through college life as well. But in addition to that, I feel that your ability to network is improved a lot in Christ in terms of the people that you talk to, in terms of, the experiences that you can generate together. And at the same time, like the amount of learning that you can derive from just interacting with other people, right? So, one thing that I definitely didn't do too much in school was, I was a lot more introverted in school in terms of just being by myself and just sticking to my own comfort zone. And I felt that that genuinely expanded in Christ. So I started talking to more people. I made sure that I was more outward in, approaching people and getting to know them. And obviously, like the core memories that I can remember are mainly people centric, right? So if you ask me like core memories, it would obviously be associated with friends, or like doing fests with someone else, or making sure that I'm going on trips with someone else, etc. So these are particular factors that I can remember off the top of my head. Looking at individual moments, I felt that, lot of activities, right? Like activities in college. Then we went to Mysore from the cricket team for a South Zone tournament. So that's something I distinctively remember. For like 4 5 days, we were off campus in Mysore, so that was pretty fun. Apart from that, there was a lot of parties, a lot of chill time on campus, and cricket practice was another fun thing that I had. Like every morning, I used to wake up, and I had enough incentive because I love cricket as a whole. So I used to wake up early, go to campus by like 6, and I used to leave campus a little late at like 6:37. So I just maximized my 12 hours on campus. Apart from that, I just feel like it's the moments that you spend together, right? Because I don't think Christ gives you that much time during the day because of your packed schedule. Overall, yeah. So that's like the moments I can reflect on. And yeah, I mean, generally, yeah. I mean, there's not individual moments to talk about. Like a lot of fun, small moments put together, maybe.
That's great. That's great. Okay, and you still managed to do all of that while excelling so much on the academic side. I believe you are given options: CISI, IMA. How did you choose CISI, and were you surprised when the announcement was made that you had like done really, really, really well?
Yeah, so the choice was fairly simple for me in terms of CS, and the way I viewed the choice was doing finance or accounts. And a lot of people tend to mistake them for the same thing, but doing cost accounts, management accounting, and doing like core finance is a little different. And I felt that my inclination towards finance was a lot more ever since like I had come into Christ. And personally, it was a lot more even when I came here into an MBA. And like you said, right, just tracing back to that point where you said there's no point of discussing what you're doing 5 years down the line. Like I'm a proponent for that argument as well, because I came like it's just a simple thing, right? But it just shows you how much like it can change. Like I came into college with a decent finance profile, and I felt that I wanted to land a finance internship, but I entirely switched over to consulting because that's a space that I wanted to explore. And finance was something that I thought that you could try to delve into later as well. And overall, your options and your choice sets and baskets will keep changing over time, and what you want to do will change with that. So there's not too much to dictate as to, moment's choice as to this is something that I want to do 5 years down the line. But yeah, just coming back to CISI and IMA, I think CISI gave me that finance option. It was not a major discussion or debate as to what I want to do. It was just about in the moment what I felt that I wanted to do in the short run. And finance was something that I was inclined to, and CISI was something that I picked. Uh, Luckily, a lot of concepts in CISI level one was like the basic finance concepts that I had been interested in, like even in school. So I had given it a read, and it was just more of a recap set. So I was pretty confident of doing well. I was obviously really thrilled and happy that I scored well, and that I whatever that I came first, and I was genuinely surprised when they announced it. But overall, I felt like that was not something that we were even like. I don't think that's something that any of us were aiming towards. Like they were obviously having incentives in place for you to finish in merit and for you to not like just pass and stuff like that. Like our main agenda was to pass for the certification, obviously, and along with that, I felt like this was just an added incentive to study, like a merit rank or whatever. But along the process, like I just felt that since my inclination was towards finance, it was something that I did willingly and not like chasing like a particular incentive. But like luckily it worked out in the end for me both ways. And yeah, so overall, happy scenario with that.
Okay, and that was during the third, fourth sem, I believe.
That was during the, yeah, so it should have been during the third sem, but I think our exam was delayed due to COVID. So I think I gave it in the fourth sem, if I'm not wrong. Uh, yeah, so level one was third sem end or fourth sem, something like that. And level two was again fourth sem end, and level three was between fifth and sixth sem, somewhere along that timeline. So they had three parts to the exam, and we finished giving all three. And then there's a particular designation that you can apply for once you're done with the three exam part. And yeah, so that was pretty much the process that we followed.
Okay, and you also interned at Goldman Sachs. Can you reflect on your time at GS? Again, did you like working there? What was the internship process like?
Oh, GS was a great internship. Primarily because it's a phenomenal company to work with. Firstly, like at least what I've seen. Obviously, if you're working in GS, you might have a different view, or you might have the similar view based on how long you've been there. But as you said, mine was a 6 week internship, so it was not a very extensive outlay for me to judge the entire organization. But I really had a fun time. One thing that I would regret is obviously my internship was online, so I didn't have the level of interaction necessary to build relationships with people at GS. But overall, I felt that the team that I got, so I was working in global compliance, and the team that I got was genuinely a very supportive team. Very like amazing folks. They were always there for all my projects in terms of me needing any help or just me needing to communicate anything required from my end. There were regular follow-ups from their end as to how my projects were going. They included me in team huddles, etc. And this is genuinely like a good organizational culture to follow, right? Like for any organization, and it generally helps you it makes you feel like you're part of that core team for those 6 weeks as well. My internship presentations also were structured pretty well. My team helped me quite a bit, and at the same time, I felt that I could deliver my presentations well. So it just ended on a good note. Obviously, like I said, like the main concern, or not exactly concern, because I felt that it wasn't even their fault. Like the main like drawback was the fact that it was online. But overall, sorry, yeah, online. But overall, we could like I felt that I could reap the benefits that I could online and maximum exposure that I could. There are particular designations and platforms where you can cross connect with individuals across departments. So I just made sure that I caught them on Zoom, just network with them, talk to them for a while, etc. And I think they were even like kind enough. I think that was the time when COVID, the I think vaccine second vaccine was being launched, like the doses for our age group. So I think GS was also considered enough to give all their interns like free vaccines, etc. So that's the one time I went to campus to get the vaccination drive. But yeah, beautiful campus as well. So if anyone's in GS, they would definitely agree. Bangalore campus is phenomenal. Yeah, I mean, that's more about my internship experience. I just had a couple of, I had like one or two projects that were core to compliance. And yeah, pretty lot of learning in those projects. Just got to know what compliance does overall, how they complement other functions, and at the same time, what are the takeaways of doing that.
Okay, awesome. And now, another thing that I wanted to touch upon was that your IMA case study competition, you went all the way to the finals. And again, you have talked extensively about the entire case study. But I just case studies in general, I think I get flooded with or emails, my client's email basically about the different case study competitions. And I mean, I had certain perceptions prior to entering college. Oh my God, I'm going to participate in all of them. But at the same time, then it becomes, once you finally become realistic, it's really a juggling act. How important is it to, would you encourage others to take part in as many case study competitions, especially if they are aiming for business schools later on?
Yeah, definitely. Like that last point was the most important because your CV or resume is fairly unimportant if you're not in a B school. Like, I don't think anyone ever cross questioned me based on aspects of my CV or resume when I was in Christ or, applying to like UG colleges because they really don't care. It's primarily based on marks. But once you come into like IIMs or any other B school as such, for the placement process here, you have a very, very well made CV in which you have to reflect like spike buckets, etc. And one of the spike buckets that I reflected was my case comps. And like I felt that case comps are genuinely important from two angles. One, it obviously helps you build your resume. That is something that brings a lot of value addition to your resume in the sense that there's a knack that you have for problem solving, right? Which is what companies look for. Second thing that incentivizes me is I'm very materialistic that way, is very plain and simple, the cash prize. So like primarily competitions that I look for when I was in Christ or here is filtered on two combinations. Obviously, one is I filter on the monetary aspect of it. So I felt that if the level of effort, and I'm not saying that cash prizes of 2,000 and 3,000 are not a lot. Obviously, these are a good steady like value income to your entire whatever for you to spend as well if you get it. But I just feel like there are certain trade-offs that you need to make in terms of allocating this much time and what is the prospective payoff that you might get. And here there are competitions that come in every 2 days, right? So if you're basically going to allocate a lot of time on an individual project that might fetch you like 5K against a team project with like three people in which you have to allocate lesser time that might individually fetch you like 20K, you'd obviously go for option two, right? So it's all about strategizing which competitions you want to do, primarily based on the availability of your time, as well as how you feel that you can the amount of dedication and effort you can put towards that submission. That's the first parameter that you might want to look at. Secondly, how do you balance out between all case comps? You don't need to do all case comps, right? Like, obviously, do the case comps that you feel are very hard but have very, very good brand value. So there are company case competitions that are usually launched. So let's say if you're talking quizzes, TCSIT or Tata Crucibles, etc. These are major quizzes that give you a lot of exposure, and even if you have a very small chance of winning it, definitely go for it, right? So this is something that I would stand by in terms of how to approach case competitions in terms of balancing time and your requirements as a whole. Another factor that you might want to look at is the type of profile that you're trying to build. So if I'm trying to build a core consulting or marketing, a finance profile, uh, a heavy reliance on a marketing case competition wouldn't do my CV a lot of good, right? So this is from a point of CV preparation. So from a point of CV preparation, you want to look balanced, but you don't want to look cluttered. So my CV was finance centric, but I felt that consulting is a space where everything is genuinely a mix. And that's why I could apply to consulting. But obviously, a very, very core finance CV might not be the best fit while applying for a marketing company, right? Like you might want to do projects and live projects in marketing. You might want to win case competitions that are marketing centric, etc. So be very, choosy about the case competitions that you want to do profile wise if you're aiming to build a CV. Uh, Other two I told you in terms of the time that you have as well as the monetary incentives that you want to look at. Even if there are case competitions that have a lot of brand value, go for it, even though there's a small chance, or if you feel that there is a case competition that adds value to your CV and it's a major spike point, go for it, even if it doesn't have like cash prize or any monetary incentive, right? Like just dedicate time out to just build that into your profile. And the last point is probably something that is more personal to me. I just did case comps because I found them fun. Like I just felt like problem solving and like was something that I really like to do. And like I said, right, I didn't fest very actively till third year, and then I fested in third year once or twice. And primarily, one of my reasons for festing was also to do it with my friends, right? So it's a fun experience when you do it with other people as well. And there are certain memories and certain moments that you make over the scenario of doing a case competition or a fest, etc. So it's generally for the experiences that I did it, but luckily, like it worked out in my favor in terms of my CV as well.
What all places did you get to go as part of your
So I
festive?
didn't travel much, like very honestly. So I think IMA was one case comp that my friend prompted me to do. So it was not even me, and she's a lawyer, so she saw it on the net, like she's doing law in Christ. So she prompted me to do the case comp with her, and I'm very glad that I did it. Secondly, I think DPS has a fest called Cognito. That's something that I didn't attempt in the first 2 years in terms of applying for a core role like finance. but that's something that I wanted to try in the third year. And like I got into the team from DOC, and we were able to win that. So that was a fun experience. I didn't travel much, like very honestly. I didn't do case comps that allowed me to travel to, let's say, like other South Indian colleges or Delhi, etc. In school, there were a few instances. So in school, I traveled to Delhi for a quiz. Then there was an income tax quiz from the Karnataka and Goa division, and then there was one instance where something else. Somewhere we went to. I think we just went like to like local colleges in Bangalore for like fests also. So overall, like you don't have to look at the travel element of it for like a lot of exposure. But yeah, doing case comps even online or doing them from home is pretty fun, like even within Christ.
Okay. Oh, I didn't even realize that we had gone beyond 30 minutes. This has been
No,
really a
no, that's
thrilling
fine. I think
conversation.
Manasvi also had a question. Manasvi, you can just unmute and ask me, right? That's not an issue.
I believe she has a problem with her mic, which is why.
Okay, okay, sorry. So, one sec, let me just read the question. So, like you to shed some light on the significance of staying in touch with people and building a support system. Yeah, very, very important. So, uh, it's like especially when you come to like a B school or you're under tremendous pressure on like academics or like just balancing everything. Uh, you need people like with you all the time, right? Like make sure that whatever happens in life in terms of you trying to balance things out or you being anywhere, just always give priority to those people who have, been there with you, like shared those memories with you in the past. I feel like genuinely, I'm still close to all of my Christ friends, like luckily, touchwood, and I hope that it always stays like that. And even like to a certain degree, like I do make an effort to maintain like good relations with my school friends as well as my any friends that I've made in the past. And that's very very important, like Manasvi said, like that's something that is very central to how you like how you balance things out and how you generally maintain relationships overall with everyone. So I mean that's a lot of like philosophy and stuff, but overall, yeah, I mean it's social isolation is definitely a thing, and you definitely feel it when you transition into a new place. And yeah, just keeping that circle close is very important, and at the same time, just running that circle parallelly to you, just having new experiences with making new friends here as well is very very important here as well. So just maintaining relationships overall with everyone that you meet and just revisiting like the old times and just making sure that you stay in touch with everyone is very important that way as well.
Okay, that's really great. Well, thank you so much for doing this. I think my last question to you would be well, again, I think I found you on LinkedIn quite a while ago, but at the time we didn't have the podcast started. So I'm really glad to have you on. But I think my last question would be well, I think this is according to my personal experiences that our Indian educational system, I'm not going to go into that rabbit hole. We're just glancing through it. That people do become extremely unidimensional, even when there are opportunities all around you. Even in those circumstances, people do prioritize just sticking to their books. And I think you are someone who has dispelled so much of those stereotypes, maybe, and it really reflects in the way one thinks or one works. It really adds on. I think your experiences gained from one dimension, totally different from academics, does translate to academics. Your work, it's very transferable. And I think what all others, like maybe things that you have noticed at business school that you wouldn't like to do, you would like, maybe you like to do something differently.
That's a long question. I just lost you in between for a while. So, basically, what are some things that I look at in B school that I would not like to do?
Yeah, basically.
Uh, so there is not like specific fact. So there are certain things that I don't really know how to approach that question from the standpoint of what I dislike. It's I think things that people do in terms of whether it's academics, whether it's how they balance things out with like extracurriculars, etc., is something very personal to them, and it's a very personal choice in terms of how you want to allocate time to what you want to do. So there is no set template saying that studying is bad, right? So a lot of
Yeah.
people feel that there is a notion that if you are a nerd or studying like all the time 24/7, that's a bad thing, or you don't have a social life, etc., which is completely fine for those people who don't want a social life, right? Like it's a personal choice. They feel like they're introverted, they want to study, they have fun studying, go for it. That's there's no issue with that at all. But one thing that I feel I don't want to do as a personal individual, and like a very, very personal notion to me, is not spend too much time on like books, and just make sure that I generate experiences in an alternate format. There has obviously been a lot of. I am from a very like academic centric school as well. So if you've heard of National Public School in Bangalore, that's a school that is very heavy on academics there as well, right? So it's a very the culture of the school is very study centric. At least that's what I felt, and I made sure that I put in a lot of like long hours of study there in school, and even Christ was a similar format. So I felt like overall school, college, and like my first 2 semesters of MBA were something that I focused a lot on in terms of academics. And now I just want to take a like obviously like summer placement is not a guarantee of a final placement. Like hopefully like I can work it out and get a pre-placement offer and convert that into a final placement. But at the same time, I don't want like studies or like entire application of like a B school from the context of like placements or like pressure in terms of how you're compared against your peers in terms of profile, etc., to be a very like focal point in my life. So something that I want to focus now is more taking time out for myself in terms of the activities that I want to do, the sports that I want to play, in terms of having experiences to travel, etc. And primarily, I'm traveling to IIM Ahmedabad tomorrow for a quiz competition, and like rather like obviously like I'm very motivated to quiz, but more than that, I felt like this is one nice trip that I'm going with college folks for me to help build those experiences by just traveling with them for like 3 4 days wherever it is, right? It doesn't matter where you're going. All it matters are the people that you go with and how much fun that you can have. So these are some particular points and like things that I keep in mind from the shifts that I want to make from my core focus to what should be my core focus in the short run. And yeah, hopefully just do well in my internship, convert that, and just if I get a PPO, just help the junior batch just chill for a while the next year, and just maximize that 1 year just for myself before you delve into that corporate career again.
Right. I think yeah, that is something that we all have to. That was really helpful because sometimes we do get lost between just ruminating about the past and then thinking about the future, constantly switching back and forth, forgetting that maybe you can make memories in the present, just live a bit more,
Yeah.
explore a bit over the college life, really take passion to your academics than looking at something as a chore. Well, you have been so generous with your time. Thank you
No
so much.
issues.
This is probably the best one we've done so far. So that would be all from our end. Thank you so much. Manas, we would like to add anything. Again, I have a mic issue, and by the time she types.
That's not a problem. It's not a problem. So thanks for having me firstly, and I mean very engaging questions, and I'm looking forward to hearing the podcast version of it. And at the same time, just wanted to thank you and Manasvi as well. And yeah, good fun. Uh, Let me know if we can catch up some other time as well. And yeah, if there's anything else,
All right. That would be all. Thank you. So you can log off now.
sure,
That
sure.
was amazing.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Bye guys. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.